Okay, first off, I'd like to apologize for the slight delay. And I'm going to read a statement, and then we'll take some questions. This conference was called because 3 weeks ago, my opponent, a career politician, city councilman Lew Fidler, decided to make character the issue of this campaign. Before addressing jobs, education, or various types of other programs, my opponent decided to embark on a smear campaign, spreading lies and malicious rumors that I have ties, that I, a Jew, a Zionist, have ties to some neo-Nazi skinhead groups. Mr. Fidler has now completely reversed himself and has backed off these untrue attacks. While he has yet to apologize for his offensive behavior, the truth is now known to everyone. I'm a proud Zionist, I'm a supporter of Israel, I'm an active person in the Jewish community, and have no ties whatsoever to extremist organizations. But there is one truth that must be known as a result of this incident. Another fundamental truth that has risen out of the desperate and pathetic display of politics at its worst. And that is the truth that we're here to acknowledge today. Mr. Fidler was right about one thing. Character does matter. But it is not my character that is in question in this election. It is not my character that is at issue. It is Mr. Fidler's. It is his record of extremely questionable, unethical behavior as a career politician, a city councilman, and a power broker in the corrupt Brooklyn Democratic Party and the corrupt Brooklyn political machine. Today we're here to say that character counts. And Mr. Fidler's character renders him unfit to serve in the New York State Senate. This is not a statement that I make lightly. I realize the implications of what I'm saying. But the issue that character counts, has become the central issue of this campaign. And now that we know what kind of a person Lew Fidler is, the kind of person who will say or do anything to get elected, just so we can get another rise in the rung of his career, the political ladder. Now that we know the kind of person that Lew Fidler is, we have an obligation to examine Mr. Fidler's record and to determine whether that merits our vote for state senate. And the answer is no. Let us look at Mr. Fidler's character. Let me just say that I've always been a big believer that a man can be judged by the character, by the company that he keeps. And what company does Mr. Fidler keep? This is a man who's proud of being a product of the corrupt Democratic Brooklyn political machine.
Hey, I'm a Democrat. Don't say, am I corrupt?
No.
I'm a Democrat. Are you calling me corrupt?
Excuse me.
He just said the
Please
Democrats are
do not
corrupt.
disturb.
Okay.
There's a difference. Let me just address this. There's a difference between Democrats
Hey,
and the
It's
political.
okay.
that's not true.
Well, it's
that's
okay.
not true. You just called me.
It's okay.
Hold it. I want this guy to
Hold on,
apologize
hold on,
to me.
hold on.
You just called me a homosexual.
No, I didn't
You
say.
called me a homosexual.
Come on, come on. Provocative, come on.
Apologize.
Apologize.
Thank you.
Just separate them.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just address
I'll
that.
be
Like everybody else.
Let me just address that. There is a difference between a political machine and rank and file members. There is a big difference between them. I'm not here talking about regular people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Conservatives, Greens, working family, it doesn't matter. Most people are very decent people. I have friends going from the very left to very conservative right. And most of them are right down the middle. Half of my friends are Democrats, half are Republicans. And well, actually a third are Democrats, a third are Republicans, and a third are Independents. That is not what I'm talking about. Every single day I spend a lot of time with regular rank and file Democrats who are very decent people. What we're talking about is a corrupt political machine. A machine that is constantly being investigated by the FBI, by the NYPD, by some other agency, a machine that results in people getting arrested one after another, a machine that produces an assemblyman Boylan, who gets arrested for bribery, and then he takes another bribe to pay his lawyer in that case. That is what I'm talking about. That is not the average Democrat. That is not the average Republican, and that is not the average independent. That is a corrupt machine. When you take a bribe to pay for, to defend yourself from a bribery
What about
charge,
Nixon?
Nixon is not a Brooklyn.
He's a
what Nixon did
Republican.
was wrong. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the corrupt Democratic machine. Mr. Fidler was handpicked by Mr. Vito Lopez, who's been under investigation. He's the heir and the direct descendant of the big Tony Genovese, of Stan Fink, of Boss Esposito. His political buddies even put up a rally in the New York State Assembly that good government groups were appalled at and called an outrage. This is a sort of cronyism that is not new to Mr. Fidler and to his friends. His entire political career he's been suckling in the bosom of the Brooklyn Democratic political machine. Now he thinks it's his turn to run for state senate. His entire career has been dealing with these people. Like Mr. Kruger, a man who's given and he's given and taken money to and from Mr. Kruger, who's recently pled guilty to charges that will result in a long prison sentence on multiple felony charges. Mr. Fidler has even arranged for a patronage job for a man who's been disbarred to be put in charge of legislative work. The man's been disbarred and he gets him a job to be put to be in charge of legislative work. You may think this is the kind of unethical behavior that is normal in politics. And you know what? That is the problem. That is what we get from this culture of corruption. That is what we get from a one-party system. That is what we get from this political machine. Voters, beware. If you vote for Mr. Fidler, yet another corrupt, unethical politician, you will get more of the same political machine, corrupt political representation that you've been getting now for decades. Now, Mr. Fidler's political and ethical problems do not end with cronyism. They just begin there. For many years, Mr. Fidler has been the chief counsel to a company called Law Cash. This is a company that advances money at extremely high interest rates to people who are suing various corporations, including the corporation of the City of New York, the very City of New York that he's supposed to represent in the City Council. Now, there are two problems with it. One is that not only does he think it's okay to do that, but he's proud of it. That's his own word. He's proud to do that.
It's legal.
He's proud to poach money from low-income people, leading them of large chunks of the settlements that they're entitled to by the law. Sometimes just leaving them with taking as much as 30%.
Is he breaking the law?
No.
Would you please
One
shut
second.
up?
I will take your questions. But the truth is that preying on the poor is not what we need from our state senate. And second, he's doing it. He's suing the City of New York as he is sitting in the City Council on the Finance Committee of the City Council. That is an outrageous conflict of interest. Outrageous. This is a man who was elected to represent our interests, our tax dollars, to be a good steward of the public trust. How can Mr. Fidler protect the interests of the taxpayers of New York, while at the same time, he's the chief lawyer for the company that is suing the city. He cannot. He cannot. He's not. Now, this issue has been raised in the press before. This is nothing new. This is not something that we discovered. It was in much of the press. But despite the cries of the media and the government watchdogs and, a lot of regular people, despite the articles that were written in the Daily News and the New York Post against Mr. Fidler's ethical conflict of interest, Mr. Fidler has persisted. He is still the chief lawyer for Law Cash. He is still proud of it. Mr. Fidler has gone largely unopposed, actually completely unopposed more or less, throughout his campaign, throughout his political career. He's been able to get away with his ethical lapses because really people didn't have a choice. But now there is a choice. There is a choice. Somebody is running against him who will do better. You can, this time, vote for someone who has integrity and who knows that character counts. Mr. Fidler has been in office for more than a decade, and even longer than that in the Brooklyn Democratic machine. Over that time, he's developed an attitude about public money and public resources that is nothing short or offensive to all of us as taxpayers. Mr. Fidler has a clear sense of entitlement about himself, and when it comes to using and abusing taxpayer money. 2010, the New York Post exposed and documented that Mr. Fidler is repeatedly abusing his parking privileges to park at the Brooklyn Borough Hall for his own personal needs, such as when he goes to court to sue New York City. Apparently, Mr. Fidler thinks that all the rest of us should pay our parking tickets, and all the rest of us should pay for our parking garages. But he, as a member of the elite political machine, feels that he's entitled to park wherever and whenever and for whatever reason he wants to. But he didn't stop there. He would then, the time he caught, he would stop. But he didn't. Even after the New York Post, even after that, has caught him, Mr. Fidler continued to abuse the same privilege. He just didn't care what any of us think. He didn't care what the voters and the taxpayers think. And only last week he was caught doing the very same thing, and once again, he was caught by the same newspaper. And once again, he was profiled. Mr. Fidler got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And then he went back and tried to take the cookie again. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable behavior from a public official with a blatant sense of entitlement to use and abuse his power, even after he's caught. But Mr. Fidler's out-of-touch behavior about taxpayer money did not end with parking. Mr. Fidler has also accepted public money to crush political opponents, even when he was not entitled to do so. In 2009, he knocked out his Democratic opponent in the primaries. He didn't face him. In the general elections, he faced an opponent who had $700. And yet, Mr. Fidler decided to take $84,000 of taxpayer money that should only go to elections that are competitive. Mr. Fidler won that election with more than 80% of the vote, facing an opponent with $700, with no office, no staff. He was called on to return the money, Again, this is not something that we just found out. It was in the Daily News. It was in other newspapers. And yet, he never returned the money. He feels entitled to your money, to my money. Mr. Fidler, shame on you. Shame on you. It's time to return the money. The $84,000 of taxpayer money needs to go back to taxpayers. There was not a competitive election, Mr. Fidler. Mr. Fidler, that is not money that you should have. Mr. Fidler, give back the money. Mr. Fidler's ethical lapses and history of abuses of his privileges of holding public office show beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is not the right choice to represent us in the state senate or in any other agency or body. He will go to any length to protect his political career. And that brings me to where we started today. Mr. Fidler, you began this campaign by attacking my character with false and malicious rumors. Claims that you know are false. You admit it now are false. And when you get caught in a lie, you try to defend yourself with another falsehood, claiming that you misspoke. Mr. Fidler, you did not misspeak. Why are you unable to tell the truth? Why are you unable to tell the truth about what you've said and why you've said it? After you got caught on YouTube and other places saying that I have ties to neo-Nazi groups, after you got caught in that malicious, disgusting lie, your campaign actually doubled down and sent out a press release accusing me of the same charge once again. Knowing my history as a Jew, as a Jewish refugee, as somebody whose family members were killed for being Jewish, as somebody in my lifetime, as somebody who is a descendant of Holocaust, both survivors and victims, as somebody who is a descendant of two grandfathers who fought in World War II. Your second claim proves that this was not a mistake. It shows that your campaign purposely lied, targeted my character, and spread false and untrue rumors about me. That was your campaign strategy from the beginning, not to discuss actual issues. You have yet to discuss actual issues this second, but it has been to attack my character. But now you, Mr. Fidler, it is you who has to defend your character and your character problems. And there are many of them. Mr. Fidler, your history of ethical lapses and questionable behavior, your abuse of public resources and a sense of entitlement render you unfit to represent the people of Brooklyn, the state senate, or any other office. That is my statement to you, Mr. Fidler. Unlike you, I stand up.
Questions?
Questions?
You told the Times the other day that the reason that Fidler was going negative was because he was doing poorly in polling.
Yes.
And yet you come out and have a press conference that's almost entirely negative yourself. Should we take that as an indication that you're doing poorly? Or why are you?
Well, because character, like I said, character was made an issue. We are not spreading false rumors. Nothing that we've said here is an attack on Mr. Fidler personally by calling him names that are false. Nothing is. Mr. Fidler has gone to lengths that are unbelievable in the name calling that he's done, in attacking my mother, in attacking everyone around me. That is the difference. There is a difference between false and true. There is a difference between personal and political. Everything that we've said here, every single thing, was reported by the press. Every single thing. And beyond that, once character is made an issue, it is legitimate for us to discuss it. Mr. Fidler decided to spread false rumors because he knew he was doing poorly in this election. We are responding with accurate information based on independent research by independent journalists, not just in the middle of this campaign, but for years prior to this campaign. What we are doing is we are investigating the truth. What he's been doing is name-calling and vicious laws against myself, against my mother, against my other relatives, against everyone around me. That is the difference.
How would lowering taxes help the citizens of Brooklyn?
I think that you called on me,
Let me just
right?
answer that, and I'll be glad to answer your question as well.
Okay, I would just
Well,
like...
let me just answer it since you already asked it. How would it help them? You drive down Ocean Parkway, Coney Island, any major artery, and you see one business after another that is shut down. You see empty stores. And these are not, I mean, we've always seen a few of them, but these are record numbers of them. We've never seen that many. We need to lower taxes to make sure that our businesses can survive. We need to reduce unreasonable regulations. Obviously, we need reasonable regulations. We need to reduce unreasonable regulations to make sure that businesses don't have to pay lawyers ridiculous amounts of money just to get a basic permit. We need to help our small businesses to make sure that we don't have all that empty space as we drive from block to block. To make sure that that mom and pop store, that grocery store, that diner, to make sure that they can survive. That's why we need to help all the small businesses with lower taxes.
Thank you.
Okay. You seem to be making a big issue in this campaign over an apology.
Yes.
Okay. How long will you hold a grudge? How long will you go on talking about
calling him a Nazi?
Will you continue to hold a grudge through, if you're elected, will you continue to hold this grudge for 4 years, or at some point will you say, hey, I mean, the Jewish religion is, you only have to ask for an apology 3 times, all right, on slichot.
Not a question or making a speech. What are you doing?
I'm asking a question.
All right, let's get on.
He asked for an apology 3 times. He's not apologizing. Now it's on his head. If you want to look at the Jewish way. Also, there's a concept. There's a concept. One other thing. You surround yourself with Orthodox rabbis. What about lashon hara? Don't you think what you're speaking is lashon hara?
What's the question?
Basically, bad mouthing your opponent. Why not? Why doesn't this campaign just hold on? I mean, the question is, why doesn't this campaign on both sides just get down to the issues? I want to hear how you feel about Mitt Romney making $46.5 million a year and paying a 13.9% tax rate. I'd like to get that tax rate myself.
Okay,
I'd like to hear what you say about it. Sure, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, here's the deal. At this point, we're discussing it for a reason, and there's a reason for it, because he's made character initial. We're discussing character initial. Now, he didn't just make an accusation that is mildly offensive. He didn't make an accusation against me. That is not really the point. Had this been a claim just against me, I would have been, look here, if somebody calls me a bad name, you know what? I'm a grown man, I can tolerate it. There are several problems with what he said. Repeatedly, for several years now, the Democratic political machine has been using the same neo-Nazi claim against Republican candidates for the last 3 years.
I've never heard that.
Okay, I will show that.
For 3 years, and it
Yes.
just comes out now.
Okay,
Would you stop just
one second, can I respond to
I'm
that?
having a discussion with the gentleman.
Sir,
Can I just
can the
respond?
press
The
please
only reason
pause
that
to
we were
questions,
able to
okay?
respond is because unlike previous campaigns where we had a candidate running with $500 or with $700 who had no ability to respond, we now have an organized campaign and we're trying to stop this from happening ever, from false claims being used, and not just false claims. That is, it's not even a problem that candidates are being attacked. It's the memory of murdered Jews that is being attacked for years now, that's being abused for years now by the Democratic machine. They found an attack and they've repeatedly used it.
So now you're doing the same thing. You're using the
Okay,
Holocaust
one
to
second.
promote yourself.
1 second. We are not calling. We have never called them, and that's.
Yeah, but you're
What's-
responding
sir,
every day.
sir.
It's all I hear. I read the New York Times article about this campaign. All it is
Sir,
about
can-
this issue. All right. I have nothing more to say.
Okay. That is why we're responding to this. We need to make sure that in future elections we will not see what we've seen in previous elections. The corrupt Democratic Brooklyn machine is found an attack that they've repeatedly used and abused in a false and malicious manner. And that is why Jewish organizations have finally had enough. You may remember that it was not us who responded. It was local Jewish organizations. Most of them, almost everyone who showed up, has not taken sides in this election. These were not people who are on board with me. These were people who are neutral. Beyond that, even people around my opponent have said that this and that.
Any other questions?
So what were the past instances of neo-Nazi charges emerging in Brooklyn politics?
Well, there was another claim, and I don't want to put the person. You can find it online easily, but there was a claim that was made by actually not by his opponent, by the Democratic machine against a person who they're pretty much similar to mine. He was running against a Democrat. Somebody said, an extremist group said, we don't like that Democrat. We know nothing about this Republican. Let's support him. That group happened to be some Holocaust denier group or something like that. And somehow the Republican candidate was accused of being with them when he had no idea that this was even posted. It was an identical claim that was made. It was not done accidentally by his opponent. It wasn't done by the person who was running against. It was done by other people in the corrupt Democratic machine. So I don't want to put a claim against the wrong person here. But that is not the first time that this was made. The exact same attack was used before. Identical to this. We need to stop this. We need to stop this. If somebody is an extremist, it's one thing, but if somebody is not, it is not, political campaigns is not the place for us to name call. Political campaigns is a place for us to discuss issues. I support vouchers, my opponent opposes them. I support lower taxes, he wants higher taxes. I oppose gay marriage, he supports it. Let's discuss that. Let us discuss the issues. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe he is right, maybe he is wrong, but let us discuss the issues.
And are you concerned that you're distracting from some of those issues by talking about his character?
Well, that is part of the issue here. That he's made this part of this campaign. My opponent, to the second, has yet to discuss issues. I have yet to hear him say, look, I oppose vouchers and that's why I oppose them. I have yet to hear him say, look, I want to raise taxes on hotels or other businesses, and this is why I want to do that. I have yet to hear him say that. He's continuously made nothing but character an issue. And it's time for us to look at both sides of this.
All right, we'll take one more question.
Yes.
Yeah. When Lew Fidler made his comments saying you had ties with extremists, he referenced articles you wrote. I think it's been removed from the website Global Politician. Where are those articles and why were they taken down?
I have no idea where those articles are. What I do know is that the editor decided that when the malicious and vicious attacks began against me and against everyone around me, like I said, including my mother, for the vicious crime of giving me a donation, legal donation, for the vicious crime of helping out my campaign, they've attacked my mother. For getting a job, they've attacked my mother, you know, a legal job, you know. They decided, you know what, this is just too vicious, we don't need to be a part of this.
Okay, and if those articles do surface,
okay,
are they going to support Lew Fidler's game, or are they going to...
The articles, probably 95% of them, have to do with two subjects. One is support for Israel. Two is economic policies. Okay, 95% of all the articles that I've ever written, and probably 100% of the term papers or whatever that I've written in college and law school and so on, have to do with these two subjects.
I don't know if you heard it, one of your supporters here just tries to call this other gentleman a homosexual when you were speaking.
I have nothing to do with that.
Do you have any association with this?
I have nothing to do with the comment.
I just want to say something. I accepted the gentleman's apology.
Wait.
I wanted, because the guy, I wanted,
all I know is that somebody said,
fine, I'll ask for it. I accepted the gentleman's apology. That issue is resolved. Thank you very much.
Somebody
made
a ridiculous comment. That should not have been made. One second. They made a ridiculous comment that should not have been made. They've apologized. From what I understand, one is the other person has accepted it, so it's not an issue.
What's his, do you know this gentleman? He's associated with your campaign? He was standing right next to you most of the press
He's
conference.
not working for my campaign.
I'm staying next to you.
He is here. He's not working on my campaign.
No? Oh, no? Okay.
All right, thanks.